All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, for the first time since 2015, the Memphis Grizzlies reached the Western Conference semifinals, but there the Grizzlies were unable to overcome injuries, inexperience, and the team that they are striving to be. Now, since 2015, the Golden State Warriors have been the kings of the mountain in the Western Conference as they've made five NBA Finals appearances while they've taken home the Larry O'Brien Trophy three times. And just as injuries derailed Memphis's title dreams this spring, the Warriors have been hit with injuries themselves, which dates back to the 2019 NBA Finals. But Golden State is back. And in this series, they were too much for the young Grizz. Now, I think the tone was set in this series in game number one when Golden State was able to go on the road and rally for the 117 to 116 victory. And you go back to that contest, you think about Memphis being unable to seize the moment. And I talk about the Draymond Green ejection early on in that contest. You think about their youth and their inexperience. You think about a shot being made for the Grizzlies, a three-point shot, and already John Morant was dancing. It's one of those where, dancing and celebrating is cool, but the bottom line is you still got to take care of the task at hand. And with that said, you have a tiger by the tail with the veteran Warriors in this series. And you know what? You do your dancing when you're done. And we saw Golden State come back and rally in that game. And, it kind of really, set the tone for them in the rest of this series. You think back to the Dylan Brooks flagrant foul in game number two on Gary Payton II, which became a rallying cry for the Warriors. You think back, of course, GP the second suffered that fractured elbow, most likely ending his playoff run. But then on top of that, we saw Dylan Brooks get ejected for that contest as well as being suspended for game number three. And you knew, even though the Memphis won game two, that once that series shifted to the Bay Area, that the Warriors were going to use that as a rallying cry. They came out in game three very strong. They blew out this Grizzlies team by 30 points. And then, of course, in that contest, we saw John Morant succumb to a knee injury, which turned out to be a bone bruise, which all but ended his playoff run as well. And even with that said, Memphis was right there in game number four. They had an opportunity to win and steal game four. And I think that would have been big for this team psyche because then you're tied at two, you're going back home for game number five. And you know what? The momentum has probably shifted in your favor. But with that said, Memphis was unable to do that. They then found themselves down 3-1, and then they played their best game of the series in game number five when they just utterly dominated the Golden State Warriors from the word go as they cruised to the 39-point victory. But with that said, you knew that Golden State wasn't going to play that bad again, and Memphis could not play any better than what they did, which set the stage for game number six last night. And Memphis hung in there, but Golden State was able to pull away late in the fourth quarter, led by Klay Thompson, of course, another one of those veterans who's been there and done that for this Golden State squad. And with that said, Memphis saw their tremendous season come to an end. And I say tremendous season because they tied the franchise record for wins in a season. They entered the Western Conference playoffs as the number two seed. They were a very exciting bunch. I think they grew up in that series win in the first round over the Minnesota Timberwolves. But facing the Timberwolves and facing the Warriors were two different things, of course. And obviously, you can't talk about this Memphis loss without talking about the John Morant injury because obviously that changed the tenor of this series for both teams. But nonetheless, the bottom line is the blueprint is there for the Grizzlies to be the new Warriors. This is a young team. They're deep. You look at the regular season with what Memphis was able to do. They had six guys that averaged at least 10 points a contest throughout the regular season. And you know what? A lot of these young guys, they showed that, they're not afraid of the playoff stage. So they just have to find a way to build off of this, and most importantly, seize the moment. And I say that because not just basketball, sports in general. We've seen young teams on the rise, and even though they get bumped out in the postseason, you hear people say, "Oh, they'll be back next year. Oh, they'll be back the year after that." They're the team to beat, and they never are able to reach that status. Memphis definitely has the ability to reach that status. They just keep having to grow, develop, probably get some more, interior scoring, big man who could score more consistently closer to the basket. And Memphis will definitely be on their way. Bottom line is, I know that John Morant missed the second half of this series, but make no mistake about it, John Morant is a star already, and he is on his way to superstar status. He is just that good as far as his scoring ability, both from the perimeter and close to the basket. He's also a very exciting and enigmatic player as well. And I think that, the NBA has a new gem as far as a young player that they can definitely market in that Southeast region, and also nationally and potentially globally as well. Now, John Morant and Dylan Brooks, they're under contract through next season on very team friendly deals due to the fact of their youth, and they haven't been in the league for long. But sooner rather than later, both of those guys are going to be getting big paydays. Dylan Brooks is the Grizzlies' version of Draymond Green. And I know I said this before uh, the flagrant foul on Gary Payton II. I don't think, obviously, that Dylan Brooks went out there and intended to, injure Gary Payton II. I think he went out there to try to set a tone. We've seen Dylan Brooks chirp with guys over the years. Nonetheless, you know what? Sometimes your intensity does go up in the postseason. And, you look at Dylan Brooks, he was able to feed uh, off of the hate that he was receiving from Warrior fans in both games 4 and game 6. He wasn't phased by it. So, I think that's going to be their guy going forward. That's their version of Draymond. But nonetheless, the Grizzlies just have to find a way to keep building off of this. This is an important offseason for Memphis because, like I said before, you simply cannot say that you're going to be in position for the next 5 years to do this. And so, with that said, a lot of things you have to factor in: injuries, free agency, you name it. And then, the Western Conference is still very formidable at the moment. So, it's all about surviving and advancing. You have a lot of young stars with some quality teams that have really shown themselves in this postseason run. And you have some veteran teams as well. So, for Memphis, obviously this is a setback, but you want to try to find a way to build off of this heading into next season. Taylor Jenkins just finished up his third season as the head coach of the Grizzlies. And in each of his years in Memphis, the team's win total has improved. And I think this dates back to the 2020 bubble where Memphis was invited there. I think that gave them an opportunity to get their sea legs, so to speak, and really come together. We saw that cohesion carry over for them into last season. They were able to make the first round of the playoffs. They gave the Utah Jazz a run for their money, and let's not forget, this Memphis team did beat Golden State in the play-in tournament last year. So they definitely, have some swag from that going forward. So let's see what the Grizzlies can do. This is big. You're going to have an off season where this young squad, a lot of people in their corner are going to be telling them how good they are, and you name it. But the bottom line is, yeah, they're going to be telling you that you want to listen to it, but you still want to add some fuel to your fire to come back and be a little hungrier. You've shown that you can make the playoffs. You've shown that you can win a series. And let's see if they can take the next step. Obviously, a lot of that relies on the health of John Morant. And I think obviously he will be back and ready to go for next season. But you're definitely going to need him for any forthcoming playoff run. But at the end of the day, it's a solid, building block for the Memphis Grizzlies. Injuries and a veteran Golden State team were too much for them to overcome. But let's see how they can come back bigger, better, and badder for next season. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.